各位观众，大家好，今天是2019年11月13号。今天我们请雷先生聊一下这个加拿大西岸华人移民的一些历史。Today we invite Mr. Russell, talking about early age overseas Chinese, how they come to BC province. Okay. Hello, Mr. Russell.
Yeah, hi Joe. Good evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you please tell us whatever you know, the history, like all history about the immigration, overseas Chinese immigration, okay?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Russell, and I was born in Canada in 1945. I like to talk about the early immigration of Chinese to Canada or to British Columbia. British Columbia was formed as in around 1858 when the gold rush happened, and the Chinese came from China, and they also came from California to join in the gold rush to find riches. For example, the legacy they left was imprinted in our family because my father, who was born in 1913, his Chinese name is Lui Gum Tim, or Golden Mountain. So in their memory, the gold rush is one of the most intense, amazing times in Chinese history. So let's just go right back. From what I know through history lessons and going to the museums, actually going to the places where they go mine and talking to people, this is what happened. Around 1858, at a place called Hills Bar, which is near a place called Hope, BC. There was a massive gold rush. This happened at a time when British Columbia was not part of Canada yet. It was called the British Territories. It was governed by the Hudson Bay Company. And the Hudson Bay Company established a fort in a place called Fort Langley. There, they bought fur from the native Indians, and they gave native Indians everything except money. They gave them beads, they gave them knives, they gave them things to eat, just to pay them for bringing in furs, and the furs were exported to Europe, especially to England. However, on one occasion, and this is around 1858, a native Indian brought in some gold nuggets. Of course, they didn't know what it was. It was just gold shining away in their hands, and or in their bags, they opened up the gold. So they brought this to the Hudson Bay Company, and right away, the people at the Hudson Bay Company knew it was gold. They sent the gold down to San Francisco because San Francisco was already a established place where gold was weighed and valued. Why San Francisco? Because the gold rush of 1849 in California happened almost 15 years before the gold rush in BC. So what happened was the news that gold was coming in from BC got into the public's view, and all of a sudden 30,000 people, they start walking up from San Francisco to Hope, where our gold rush is happening. Basically, they came up on horses, or they even walked up. That's a long ways to walk, because if you drove your car from Vancouver to San Francisco, it takes 14 hours of non-stop driving, going at least 60 to 70 miles per hour. So it was a long journey. Saying that, they came, all these gold rush prospectors, they call them, came to Hope, and they start mining for gold. They got all kinds of gold. Everybody's finding gold, so everybody got wealthy very fast. However, saying this, within about 2 years, around 1860, all the gold was taken out of this place called Hills Bar. This is when the Chinese moved in. The Chinese came up here, but they weren't allowed to pan for gold or look for gold in the rivers. Because of this situation, the Chinese had to do secondary jobs such as laundry, making shoes, sharpening knives, doing anything to stay alive. So they serviced all the prospectors that came in from all over the world. They came in from Europe, they came in from America. They were already here. They were panning for gold, but they weren't letting the Chinese, however, allowed to pan for gold when the river ran out of gold. At the same time, a new gold territory started in the Caribous, which is north of Hope, or it's in northern BC. Then when all the white prospectors left to go to this new found gold fields in the Caribous, the Chinese were then allowed to go over the Hills Bar gold area, which was already finished, but they did it anyways because they're just trying to find the leftovers, you would speak. And most of them couldn't find anything. So they became destitute. Because now they could not service the gold panners that were there before because there's nobody there. They all left to go up north, so they were left without jobs. They were left without doing their own business to support the gold miners. They were starving. They couldn't find jobs. These are the people who came from China and came from California when the gold rush finished down there. But what happened was, at the same time, British Columbia became part of Canada. And so they opened up, they needed roads, and they needed a railway to come to Vancouver. So what they did was they hired all the Chinese people that were destitute, or they're broke, they're hungry. They gave them jobs building roads, building tunnels through the Fraser Canyon. So there'll be some sort of transportation route that would come into Vancouver from the east. But this is the hardest job they could possibly do, building roads for maybe $1 a day. I think that was what they're paid, $1 a day, hard labor, 10, 12-hour days, digging, lifting stone um, uh, laying down the railway tracks through the Fraser Canyon. A lot of them died, but they made money, not too much, not like finding gold, not for prospecting that happened during this time. So they paid with their lives to have BC join Canada, because part of the agreement for British Columbia to join Canada was they made roads and they made railways to come to BC. My father, as I said, his name was Golden Mountain, but this is a long time. This is 35 years after the gold rush, and probably good 25 years after the Chinese built the roads for Canada to join the Confederation of Canada. And this is what I have to say today, that this is the first wave of Chinese, and they made Canada a proud province of Canada. They're very important in that respect. My grandfather came here in 1896 when he was 19 years old. He came from Shek-Kei, Guangdong province, or Zhongshan province in the state of Canton. He came over as a farmer, and he started working as a farmhand in Vancouver, but he found that he could not make enough money to survive. He had to work for East Indian Lumber Company at the sawmill, sawing wood. So he was also faced with hard labor. Not like the first wave of Chinese who had to build the roads and blast the mountains apart just to build a railway. But he's had to endure hard labor also. But he found his way, he did make his money, and became a prosperous businessman in our Chinatown by opening a food business, importing food from China, as well as selling the local agricultural products that were farmed around the greater Vancouver area. You must remember that Vancouver at this time was just a small little city. Most of it was farmland. And however, he had 11 children here, so he built a prosperous business, because the foundation of a good business is having a large family who could work the business and build it fast. But he went back to China, and he died of diabetes in Hong Kong in 1935 at the age of 55 years old. So he had 11 children by his second wife, 3 children by his first wife. Came over here, established a very good business, which prospers through this day. And he did all this in 55 years of his life, which is incredible. Since he came over with nothing and went home with gold buttons sewed on his clothes so he could bring gold back into China. And that's all I have to say about the early immigration of Chinese. They worked hard. They helped Canada become a province of Canada, and they built all the roads to this day. Those roads and tunnels are in use, and they have plaques dedicating the hard labor of the Chinese to build the railway and the roads. Okay, good night.
Okay, by the way, May I ask you questions?
Yeah.
Probably it's a lot of coolie or the labor they came Canada.
Yes.
How they can? How about those men, those young men?
They never had a chance to get married. They're young men who were basically slaves, who didn't make enough money to bring in wife, and didn't even make enough money to get back to China. They basically just were slaves, made little pay, but they're happy to be alive and have their meal.
Do you think they have a prostitute?
As we know, they're born that way. They don't know if they're a man or they're women, but they prefer to be gay. When you don't know whether you're a man or woman, you're gay. You're born that way. I mean, they don't even know what it's like to be normal.
Did you know some history or some story about that?
Well, yeah. I see it in my friends that were gay, and I always wondered how people became that way. Since I was never that way myself, with no trace of it in our family. But I got to value these people because one of my sons, I only have 2 sons, is gay. And so I had the opportunity of listening to his story. When he told me, I warned him, if you're going to choose to be gay, you're going to have a hard life in Canada. People would call you names. They're going to laugh at you. They're going to maybe even beat you. And how you feel about that. And so he cried and said, I can't help it, Dad. This is the way I am. And we call that coming out of the closet. And when you declare publicly that you're gay, but the first ones you say it to is your parents. And so I'm one of the parents of a gay man. My son is now 33 years old. He's studying for his PhD at the University of British Columbia. He is a physical therapist with a Bachelor of Arts and Master's degree in that field. And now he's going to get his PhD. He's a very dynamic person, very intelligent. His specialty is the brain, helping people who have concussions, strokes, the very critical part of your body, which is your brain. That's his specialty. So I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of the way he conducts his life. He is not settled with somebody he loves, and they're both wonderful men, and they treat me with respect, and I treat them back with respect and love. And to tell you the truth, I feel more passionate about a son that is this way, because I know that it's not easy, but he tries to do his best in life, in work, in education, and in his relationships with people, and he helps the public.
Okay, thank you for your story. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.